Okay. See, we were discussing these phases of a compilation process. Okay. So there are 7 phases are there. First, some 3 to 4 phases I call them as analysis. The remaining 3 phases I call them as synthesis. And in that one, first one is a lexical analyzer. Okay. Or else you can call it as a lexical analysis. Okay. So this process is also called as scanning or lexing. Remember these all words. Lexical analysis is also called as lexing or scanning, which will be done by lexical analyzer. Or this lexical analyzer is a part of a compiler, right? So it is also, you can call it as a software, a small tool inside a compiler. This lexical analyzer is also called as lexer or scanner because it is lexing and it is scanning. So you can call it as a lexical analyzer. Okay, this is called as lexical analysis, which will done by lexical analyzer, which is also called as lexer or scanner. If you observe this diagram carefully, what it is doing, it is taking the character stream as a input and it is producing the token stream as a output. So which characters it reads from our source program, whatever you are writing in a high level language, those all characters it will take it as a input and it will produce the token for those all characters. Okay. So this process we will see in the next diagram. Okay. You have to write these both the diagrams in your answer in your exam, and also you should explain each and every step of these 7 phases of compilation process. Okay. So here we will see the lexical analysis. Okay. As just now I told you, lexical analysis is also called as scanning or lexing or lexical analysis, right? So it will be done by lexer or scanner or lexical analyzer. This is a processor and this is a tool. This tool will perform this process. Okay. Here, this lexical analyzer takes characters from our source program. Okay. It may be IF, small letter IF, or it may be small letter INT. It may be small letter A, small letter B, small letter SUM. Okay, if you are writing a program for addition of 2 numbers. Okay, so if your lexer is looking into these all characters, then what it should understand? It understands small letter IF is a keyword. Small letter INT is a data type. Small letter A, B, sum are variables or identifiers. So like this, it will understand itself and it makes them into a meaningful groups. Okay. So those groups are called as lexemes. Lexemes. Remember these all technical words. Lexemes. Okay. Now it produces a token stream, right? It means a sequence of tokens. So how it produces that tokens? That token will be in this form. The syntax of token will be in this form. First component is a token name. Second component is a attribute value. So token name and attribute value. Okay. So how it is? For example, if your program contains this assignment statement, position is equal to initial plus rate into 60. If this assignment statement is written in high level language, okay, we have to convert it into low level language now. We have to compile it, we have to translate it into low level language. So then compiler lexical analyzer will scan this assignment statement from left to right. Then it decides that position is an identifier. Okay, position is an identifier. Then it treat it as a lexeme. one individual separate words, separate characters, separate symbols in your statements are called as a lexemes. You can call it as a lexeme or group of same type of lexeme characters. We call them as a lexeme. Okay, but individual symbols are called as a tokens. So lexeme is nothing but set of tokens. I hope you are understanding. Variables, keywords, and data types. These all are lexemes because they are representing some groups. Okay, but particularly this position POSITION is belonging to some lexeme or some group which is called as identifier. Okay, which is belonging to a lexeme or group identifier, because position is a variable name, it is, which is a identifier, right? Function name is also identifier, right? There are some rules to write variables and these identifier, right? So I don't want to waste my time here to explain all those things. Okay, so position is belonging to lexeme or group, and this particular position, for this particular position character, the lexical analyzer will generate one token in this format: token name and what is here, attribute value. So here token name is ID because it is identifier, position is identifier, and attribute value is 1. Why it is 1? This 1 is representing that in this entire statement, assignment statement, this is the first identifier what I am scanning. Okay, so for lexical analyzer, for its own understanding purpose, it has created this token for position, where this ID is representing identifier and 1 is pointing to the symbol table entry for the position, because this identifier is nothing but this is a symbol. When it looks into this symbol, it inserts this symbol into the symbol table along with its value. Still position is not evaluated, so right now don't worry about the value of position, because once we evaluate the RHS, then only position can get its value. Okay, and this one is there, no, this one is pointing to the table entry. You can call this, you can treat this one as a index of your symbol table, index of your symbol table. Okay, that is the first index in your symbol table which is entered or which is occupied by position identifier. Okay, so here this symbol table entry for this identifier, it holds the information about the identifier. What type of information it holds about this identifier? The name of that identifier. What is the name of identifier here? Position. And type of identifier. What type of identifier it is? Maybe it is an integer or floating point. Okay, so this type of all information will be also present in our symbol table. So next, what is there? Equal mark is there, that is assignment statement, assignment operator. Since it does not have any value, it will not get any value like position, so no need to use two components for this assignment operator. Only one component is enough for it. So here we have generated one token in this syntax or format. Okay, this is the token for this assignment operator or assignment symbol equal. It is also a lexeme which is mapped to this token. Okay, now since this token needs no attribute value, we have not used that second component, attribute value. Second component of our token is a attribute value. So I have not written that attribute value here. We have removed it, we have omitted it, we have eliminated it. Okay, then instead of using this assignment operator directly, we could use this word assign. We could use this lexeme assign, but again we have to assign this equal mark to this assign or some value to this assign word. So because of those all problems, to avoid those all problems, we simply, for our notational convenience, it is very easy for us. This is assignment operator. I have to assign RHS to LHS. So our convenient purpose, we have removed that word. So directly we are using this as a symbol here. Okay. Next symbol in your statement is a initial. Once again, one more token will be generated. That generated token will be ID comma 3. Why ID comma 3? Sorry, why ID comma 2? Because this is the third token, but it is the second entry of your symbol table. Okay, this was the second token, this is the third token. The third token is ID comma 2. Identifier name is a initial, and 2 is representing, it is a second entry of your symbol table. Next symbol is plus. Next lexeme is a plus. Okay, so this plus is mapped to one more token, that is this one plus. Since this plus also does not want any attribute value, we are not taking that second component, which is a attribute value. Then the next one is a rate. For this one, we will generate one more token as ID comma 3. Identifier name is rate, but 3 is pointing, or it is representing, it is the third entry of your symbol table. Okay, next star is there. For star, again we will generate one more token like this. Next 60 is there, again we will generate one more token for it like this. Because already 60 is a value, I don't want attribute value for this 60, right? So I have created that token like this. Okay, now if the lexical analyzer generates its output, then that output looks like this: ID comma 1 equal to ID comma 2 plus ID comma 3 star 60. This is what a stream of tokens. It is a sequence of tokens, which is the output of our lexical analyzer. Okay. Now you can see this diagram. This is a character stream. Character stream is nothing but sequence of characters. It is position is equal to initial plus rate into 60, which is input to the lexical analyzer. Lexical analyzer is generating a token stream, sequence of tokens in this form. Okay. Now next come to syntax analyzer. Syntax analyzer. And before that, if you observe the entries of this symbol table, position is entered, initial is entered, rate is entered, and position is written as ID comma 1. What is this one? 1 is pointing to the first entry of your table. 2 is pointing to the second entry of your table. 3 is pointing to the third entry of your table. So that is here. Okay, just remember. So next come to syntax analyzer. As its name itself is a syntax analyzer, this syntax analyzer will try to find out the syntax errors. Is there any mistake with the syntaxes? Okay, so if you observe your previous diagram, this syntax analyzer takes these token streams as an input, and it generates one syntax tree. It takes a token stream as input, and it generates the syntax tree as a output. Okay, syntax tree as a output, and this syntax tree is a input to next phase, that is a semantic analyzer. This semantic analyzer will check whether there is any logical error or any mistake in the program. Then again it will also generate one more syntax tree. So now we are going to see how this syntax analysis and semantic analysis will be done, and how this syntax analyzer will produce the syntax tree, and how this semantic analyzer will produce the syntax tree, and whether both of them are same syntax trees or what. Okay, so let us go to this syntax analysis here. What it is doing here, it is just doing our uh, evaluation rules. It is doing evaluation, it is following evaluation rules. You know, in our arithmetic expressions, we have arithmetic operators, and those arithmetic operators have the priorities, that is nothing but precedence, right? Based on the precedence, this syntax analyzer is producing the syntax tree here. Okay, so here in this complete assignment statement or expression, or in this complete arithmetic expression, what all the operators are here? Assignment operator is here, addition operator is there, and multiplication operator is there. Among these all operators, first priority will be given to multiplication. So it takes this multiplication operator as a parent node. Remember, in a syntax tree, parent nodes will be always the operation what I want to take, or operators simply, which operation I want to do. That is representing by these operators. So always remember, in syntax tree, the parent nodes will be operators and their child nodes will be the operands. So here for this star, operands are ID3 and 60. So ID3 and 60. So after calculation of this one, I have to add this value with this operand. So once again, I make this plus as a parent node and this value as a right leaf node, and this ID comma 2 as a left leaf node. Then this entire RHS I want to assign to this LHS. So complete RHS, I treat it as one operand, which is assigned to this operand, which is LHS. So again, I make this assignment operator as a parent node, and complete value, whatever you have evaluated here, it is a LHS, which will be assigned to this RHS. Okay. So this is a syntax tree generated by the syntax analyzer. Next, the same syntax tree is given to semantic analyzer for checking the logical errors. So here what it does, this semantic analyzer does type checking. Type checking means these all identifiers, whatever they are you are using here, what type of variables they are. Position is of which type, whether it is integer or a float or what type. So it will find out the type of these all identifiers and values or tokens. Okay. Suppose if you assume that these all three identifiers, all three identifiers means which identifiers? Position, initial and rate, if they have declared as a float, then if you remember in your expression you are taking one integer value, that is a 60. So if you want to multiply this 60 with the identifier, third identifier, first you should convert this 60 into float. So this implicit type conversion will be done by this semantic analyzer. Are you listening to me carefully? This implicit conversion, type conversion, will be done by this semantic analyzer. Now 60 will not be written as a 60, it will be written as a 60.0, and 60.0 will be multiplied with the value of rate, whatever it may be, the value of rate. Okay, it will be multiplied. Okay, so then that result will be again multiplied with this identifier 2, that is initial, sorry, not multiplied, it is added. Then this complete RHS floating point value will be assigned to this LHS. Okay, so this type conversion will be done in this semantic analyzer. After that, this syntax tree will be given to the intermediate code generator as input. Then this intermediate code generator will generate one intermediate code, which is just like our pseudocode. You know, whenever we write a C program directly, we don't write C program. First, we write a algorithm by understanding the problem statement. Then we write the flowchart. From flowchart directly we can write the program. But if the problem is complex or complicated, if you are facing difficulty to write the program directly by using flowchart, we will take the help of one more intermediate step there. That is called as pseudocode, which is a mixture of both and algorithm and source program, that is high level program, that is C program. It means that algorithm is written in English language and our main source program is written in C language. So it is a mixture of both English and C language. So similarly here also, instead of directly generating the low level language, we are generating one intermediate program. So how it is? So here we are going to do some type conversions here. Just now I told you 60, I want to convert it into float. So I write one statement here, int to float, int to float. Okay, this program, whatever I have written here, this intermediate code generator is producing this intermediate code, and particularly which code it is. There are so many representations are there for this intermediate code. Particularly here I am using three address code. What this three address code does? So every instruction, every statement is written in this three address code. What is this three address code? This three address code is a statement, executable statement, which uses three operands. Remember, okay, which uses three operands. If you observe this second statement, one operand is T2, second operand is ID3, third operand is T1. Similarly, if you observe third line, T2, ID3, ID2 and T1, it uses three operands. Okay, sometimes it is not compulsory that it should have three operands. Sometimes it may have only two operands also. Okay, it may have only two operands. Example is first statement and last statement. First statement you can see here, one T1 is one symbol or operand, int to float, this is also one symbol. So here also ID1 is one symbol and T3 is one symbol. Okay, and one more thing what it does, what is the condition for three address code? It should have three operands, and one more thing is it should define some new names here, new names, temporary names here, temporary symbols to hold some values, to store some values. So when you perform the conversion, type conversion from integer to float, this 60 is converted into 60.0 and it will be assigned to T1. And T1 value is now 60.0. 60.0 will be multiplied with this ID3 and this complete multiplication result will be assigned to T2. Then T2 will be added to ID2 and this sum or addition will be stored into the T3. So this T3 will be assigned to identifier 1. Are you getting how to write this three address code? So T1, T2, T3 are new names what I am using here. Okay. Now next, this three address code or intermediate code will be the input to this code optimizer. What this code optimizer does, it optimizes the code. It means it reduces the size of previous code. How it reduces the size of this code? See, it reduced 4-line code into 2 lines here, right? So this optimizer, code optimizer is very, very useful for us to get still better code. Still better code. Better code means in the sense what, sir? Better means faster code and shorter code it is. Faster and shorter. So here, once again it will use, it is also 3 address code only, okay? So once again it takes one new name T1. Only T1 is taken here. T2 and T3 are not here, right? So this 60.0 is multiplied to ID3 here directly. Why? Here, you can observe here. This 60 is multiplied to ID3. The same thing here, you are assigned it to T1 and this T1 is multiplied to ID3, right? So instead of this T1, I have written directly 60 here, 60.0, and I multiplied that 60.0 with ID3 and I am assigning it to T1 instead of T2. Okay. So there I have taken T2, but here I am taking it as T1. After that, what I am doing? After this multiplication, what is there? I have to add this T1 to this one, ID2. So I am adding this T1 to ID2. Here I had taken it as earlier T2, but here I am taking it as a T1. I add this T1 to ID2, then I assign it to identifier 1. See how simple it is, right? How tricky it is. These 4 lines of code, I reduce it to only 2 lines, which is also giving us the same information. Okay. Now this code will be the input to code generator. So how it is generating? So this is nothing but your assembly level program, assembly language program. See here, this assembly language program uses some instructions. Each instruction uses 2 registers. Okay, 2 registers, or you call it as a 2 operands, not register, sorry. Each instruction is using 2 operands and 2 or more operands it is using. In that one, here we are using 2 registers, and here the first operand is there, no? First operand. This operand will be the destination of that expression or evaluation, or the value which was evaluated by that expression or instruction. Are you understanding? If you consider first instruction, LD, F, what it is? Load instruction. Okay. Load instruction, I already told you, data movement will be from memory to register. Remember, memory to register. Which register particularly? F register. Okay. So why I have written F here? It means it is indicating, suppose I have written a program for SICXE. SICXE. In SICXE, I have floating point hardware. I can do arithmetic operations for floating point there. So here it says that you load the floating point value into the register R2. So I already told this is a first operand, this is second operand. Always remember, first operand will be the destination of that process. What is identifier 3? Identifier 3 is nothing but your rate, right? This rate, whatever the value of that rate, it may be in the form of a floating point, okay? That rate I have to load into this register R2. Now just remember, in R2, rate value is there. Next, what I have to do? I have to multiply this rate with 60, correct? So that 60 I have taken it as a directly as an immediate value. Okay, that is as a third operand. So this third operand will be multiplied with this second operand, and the result will be stored in the register R2 itself. Okay. Okay. Next, what I have to do? I have to add that content of R2 with ID2, correct? So before doing that, I take one more register R1. Okay, I take one more register R1 to store the value of identifier 2. What is the identifier 2? The identifier 2 is initial. Okay, so that initial is stored into R1, whatever the value of initial may be. Again, I am using load because the data is moving from memory to register. Keep it in your mind. Okay, then next step, what I have to do, I have some value in R1, I have some value in R2, and I have to add this R1 to R2, right? So I use one more arithmetic step, that is add F. It means you add the floating point values. Okay, now it is adding R1 and R2, and it is storing the result in the first operand, that is R1 again. Okay, it has three operands here. It is adding R1 and R2, and it is adding the result in a R1 itself. Then what I have to do? I have to assign this content of R1 to the LHS, that is ID1. What is ID1? ID1 is a position. The variable is position. Identifier is position. So here, instead of load, I am using store here. Why? Because the data movement in store instruction will be from memory to register, not from register to memory. In a store instruction, the data movement will be from register to memory, correct? So because of that only, here once again I repeat, in a load instruction the data movement will be from memory to register. In a load instruction the data movement will be from memory to register, but in store instruction the data movement is from register to memory. Okay, ID1, whatever the content was there in R1, whatever you have computed, it is assigned to ID1 now. ID1 is nothing but position. Is it clear? So like this, we have generated this intermediate code now. That is nothing but assembly language. Just now I told you, compiler directly will not generate the object program. First it will generate a assembly program. Now assembler will take this assembly program. Now it will convert it into in the form of object program. It will assemble it into the object program. Are you getting? Okay. So these all 7 phases I represented in this diagram. I have shown in this diagram. What are those? Lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, machine code optimizer. I have not done this one directly, just I stopped my process here only, that is intermediate code generator. After intermediate code generator, next directly I have taken code generator. Okay, so I skipped this optimizer steps. So you can observe here. Lexical analyzer, syntax analyzer, semantic analyzer, intermediate code generator, and code optimizer. Optimizer I have used here. Okay, one optimizer I have used to reduce the size of my code. Then I generated the code, actual assembly program code, assembly code. Okay, so you should write both of these diagram in your answer, and you should explain each and every phase. Of course, you have to explain 7 phases. Okay, in diagram also you just remember for each and every phase what will be the input and what will be the output, what will be the input and what will be the output, what will be the input and what will be the output. And once you write this diagram, once you write this second diagram, okay, then it is very easy to write and explain these all phases. I told you parent node and child node, right? Parent node will be the operator, child node will be the operands, and syntactic analysis. It does some type checking. Based on that, it performs type conversion. It may be implicit type conversion or explicit type conversion. Then intermediate code generator. intermediate code generator. There are many other representations are there for intermediate code. Okay, but here I am using particular one representation, that is 3 address code. Remember, 3 address code always uses 3 operands. Okay, it is just like our assembly level program. Okay, then each operand can act like a register. Okay, the output of this immediate code generator consists of a 3 address code sequence like this. Okay, so one condition is they should have 3 operands, and they should be able to use new names. Okay, new symbols. Then next step is code optimization. Okay, so how I reduced the 4-line code to 2 lines. Then I have written code generation. So here I have written the data movement is from memory to register in a load instruction. In a store instruction, the data movement is from register to memory. Okay, so these all things you should remember. Then symbol table management. How to manage this symbol table? Because not only variables and their values are there. Apart from that, it contains all other informations there. All other information, like what is the range of those variables? Okay, what is the scope of those variables? Scope means what here? Local scope or global scope. Okay, so it contains the information about variable names, and sometimes in your program, if you are using some methods, functions or procedures, it stores the information about those procedures also. Okay, so what type of information it will store for these procedures? That is nothing but parameter passing methods. Which parameter passing method it is using, call by value or call by reference, and all those, every information it will be stored in a symbol table. It will be structured in the form of hash table with key value pairs. Okay, so these all things are very important. Today I wind up this class here, and very important question I discussed today. Definitely every time they ask this one, structure of compiler. Okay, in the next class I move to next topic. Okay, now you can leave the meeting.